I've been noticing a growing trend lately among podcasts and radio show hosts and even viewers commenting in the chat rooms and in forums that there's this mounting attitude that in order to be a decent researcher on anything to do with the metaphysical, be it UFOs or Bigfoot or whatever, that they need to have had an experience themselves. Apparently you have more clout as somebody researching alien abductions if you yourself have been abducted. And I cry bullshit. I completely cry bullshit! Let me remind you that this is not a contest. We are not trying to one-up each other on who's got the biggest bruise after a fight, who has the biggest trophy, who has seen the most war in theater. This is a matter of who is doing a good job and who is not, who is being unbiased and who is not, who is actually getting to the truth and who is not. That's what's important here. This is not a race. I fail to see how a Bigfoot sighting or UFO sighting or getting abducted or you know, being beat up by the head with a wet trout by a reptilian is the magical key to opening your mind to the existence of the supernatural. You do not have to be, you know, a victim of anything or an experience or anything to wonder about something. Some people just wonder. In a lot of cases over the years, I've noticed that having, you know, experienced the phenomenon actually hinders a researcher's ability to process information properly. They get biased, okay? They decide that what they've experienced is it, and their first impression is the truth, and they're unable to get beyond that first impression. They have their decision, their truth, and they're no longer looking to find things to express the truth. They're looking to find things to confirm their personal truth, which, by the way, is not truth-seeking in the least. It's comfort seeking. I'm not saying that the experience, you know, is a bad thing and that if you're someone who has experienced it, you should never research. But it is definitely the wrong reason to validate somebody's research. Rather, they should be validated by the kind of job they're doing. Are they doing a good job? Are they doing a bad job? Are they a good witch or are they a bad witch? One of my favorite cases of how biasment gets in the way of the truth has to do with all of those researchers out there who make excuses for an abductee's negative experience. For example, they decide the abductee is viewing their experience negatively because they have a negative outlook on it. They decide that the person is viewing the experience as negative because they don't understand the alien's motive. That's probably the best example, is everybody who makes excuses instead of just looking at it and going, this came off negative and these events happened, and why would that be? You know, beyond let's make an excuse. Let's actually look for why. You get these people that they want to view the program as a positive thing, and so therefore it has to have a positive reason. Let's search deep down in the bucket and dig because we need a positive experience, everybody. You know, rather than deciding if someone in the fringe field of science is good or bad based on whether or not they've been accosted by the supernatural in some strange way, we should be looking at the product of their research and seeing if they're actually doing the job well. And by well, I mean actually spouting information, real information, not regurgitating the same thing over and over again and then giving you a bunch of religious nonsense to go with it. Okay, that's not finding the truth well. I mean, even a lot of let's say Ike. Let's say that his information, you know, he comes and he's going to tell you about how Saturn works. One thing I've noticed is, although lately he's been putting in a lot of religious thought into his stuff, in the very beginning especially, he outlined a lot of evidence. He showed you statues and numbers and figures. That was real research. That was good stuff. So for all, that you may think, you may or may not think that his theories are crazy, but he had a lot of stuff to back it up. And when it comes to him, I tend to go back to the research because, for example, there's this one time I saw, and he some people who didn't like him threw something at him at a demonstration he was doing in a library, and without even finding out what was going on, he decided that these people were of the cabal and they had been sent by the high reptilian lord masters. That's a really good example of how the good research has stopped because someone has made up their mind on how things are and they're no longer looking for the truth. They have decided their truth. So I spent some hours last night looking to see if the late and great Bud Hopkins was also an abductee, because Bud Hopkins is a cornerstone in ufology. He was there in the beginning, from when it was just sightings in the sky. He, if memory serves correct, and I might be wrong about this, he's one of the ones that actually resisted very hard the concept of people actually experiencing first contact until the evidence was overwhelming, and then he had to accept it. Because of his research, which was a lot of other great names were brought into the field, and really he was a very important moving pioneer in learning and going for the truth. And so I went and I to back up what I'm saying here, I'm like, I'm gonna see if he was an abductee, and I looked it up. And the only thing I could find that was anything remote was that he and a friend saw long distance something in the sky, long distance. And he reported it to the military authorities, and the response that he got from them did not satisfy him. He was not happy with it, and that's how he got into ufology, because it bothered him. The kind of response, it wasn't, the concern that he felt it should be. He considered himself a I can't remember the word, something like humanitarian, but it was a word he had. And he felt that his research in ufology was important in bringing some marginalized problems to light for people, especially the people lost on the wayside. Chances are really high in his case that he was not abducted. Now, whether or not he got abducted later and just didn't remember, that's neither here nor there, really. That's not what spurred his movement. It was the fact that nobody cared, and that is what is important. He could have never have seen that UFO, heard some accounts by people, started paying attention, and got into it because nobody cared, and done the same kind of work that he did, which was very important and very profound. And maybe we know more than he did when he passed away in 2011, but we should still go back and look at his work and see the things he found and look at the progression, because it's important. Believe it or not, the history of scientific discoveries is just as important as the scientific discoveries. Ufologists who don't know who Bud Hopkins was, to me, is like a physicist who doesn't know who Isaac Newton was. It doesn't make any sense. Without Isaac Newton, we wouldn't have certain things. Without Einstein, we wouldn't have certain things. And without Bud Hopkins, we wouldn't have certain things. And these are things that it's just really important to know where they come from and why. Especially in today's problem, where we've got people who don't know, that are coming in and going, religious dogma, shake, pepper, shake, and they're changing everything into these half-truths that are being taken completely as whole truths. And I've noticed that on a lot of squares and a lot of counts, it's really important that we step back to square one and look out again, because we have lost our way. And we've got to backtrack, which means especially knowing about Bud Hopkins, especially knowing about Dr. Jacobs, Dr. Carla Turner, Springmeyer's work before he got sent to jail and went uber Christian. Most of these, yes, a lot of people that went into ufology went into it because they were abducted or saw a Bigfoot or whatever. But that does not mean that somebody who is really just hoping to be abducted and really just hoping to sight Bigfoot, it doesn't mean their work is any less valid. As a matter of fact, considering the biasment of some people, it might mean that their work is a bit more valid. Obviously, when it comes to science, I don't think people realize that science is not necessarily one person finds the truth and everybody follows it. It's a lot of people find pieces of the truth, and those pieces of the truth are put together by other people looking at all of the stuff by their previous researchers and then putting a puzzle together. The truth is a puzzle. Discounting someone based on their life experiences is childish, it's divisive, it's not even logical. And don't get it. This isn't like you're saying, well, they say they're really good at playing soccer when they've never went out and played soccer. It's not like that. This is not a sport. This is not a game. This is not a race. Okay? This is a field of study. And truly, that means that the only thing that matters is how are they studying? Are they not studying? Then yeah, don't listen to their research. Are they studying? Okay then. That's like telling me I can never learn French because I was never born in France. Earth isn't a big cosmic clubhouse with a sign on the door that reads, "Mundanes go home." You're not children, no matter what the aliens say, and we don't have time for these divisive us versus them war games. There is no, you can't understand if you weren't there in this. There's no room for it. This might shock you to realize this, but experiences are intensely personal things. The only person experiencing your life is you. That's it. Nobody else, just you. Based on the logic that only someone who has been there could get it, who are you going to tell then? Did you get your abductor's phone number so you could call them later and reminisce? Seriously. Dr. Jacobs, for example, doesn't worry whether or not he's been there when he's doing his research. I imagine, anyway. Instead, he listens to somebody's story, helps them to get to the truth, and even deal with things a little bit. And then he compares and contrasts. He finds common threads and looks at the facts. Mind you, looks at the facts. And this is how he's been able to put together the big picture, okay? He hasn't put it together by going, when I was 5 constantly. It just, no, he's looking at a lot of experiences and he's looking at them. He's not looking at whether or not he's been there. And Dr. Collar Turner, she was pulled into the field against her will because she was an abductee. She didn't want to be. She wanted to live her mundane life. She had it good, and the shit hit the fan. Okay? And we're actually quite lucky that she set her biasment aside and knew to look just at the facts, because she made great strides in the short time that she had. And I've noticed that earlier researchers, they knew to do that. It's almost as if the soft thinking, instead of hardcore look at the facts thinking, the soft thinking of, well, I need to excuse this and I need to tell myself and comfort myself with this, and I've decided this and I'm not going to change from this. It's almost as if that kind of thinking is getting planted. It's growing, it's getting worse, and it's hurting us, not helping us. It's certainly a good divider, whether or not it's on purpose. I could blame a lot of things, the lack of critical thinking in schools, who knows. If you really, care, try being helpful instead of moaning about how so-and-so isn't experienced enough for you, okay? If they're good, they're good. If they're not, maybe they can get good, maybe you can help them, or you can find somebody who's good. I don't know. But, it's in your hands to try to be helpful. They can only go so far if they truly care. So you do your best to remember every feeling, every detail, color, sounds, textures, names, atmosphere, time, whatever. Probably do it better than I can. You have to question everything. You have to examine it, and then you have to re-examine it. Then you have to examine it again. Then you have to question that. Then you have to be suspicious, and then you have to keep doing that because the truth is buried under layers to make it difficult to get to. It's like a mud pie, a properly made mud pie. You don't know how to make mud pies? I'll tell you someday. Mud pie. And above all, you've got to be brave. You've got to be brave and willing to face the truth. I honestly think that I like the idea that I was just another DNA deposit box for the hybrid program when I came to that conclusion. Do you? No. But it was a truth that I realized after a lot of research I had to come to. Now, whether or not I find out more and change my mind, that's for later. And you know what? That's that's for me. And it, you know, being able to be flexible like that, that's part of coming to the actual truth. I'm not going to try to comfort myself with, well, George truly loved me. Actually, I do think he was rather fond of me. It was the way he reacted and some things I know now of the late stage hybrids. But that, you know, that's not going to change anything. I'm not going to turn someone away that has a lot of information that can help just because they weren't abducted or weren't in the hybrid program. You know, if they know their shit, I'm going to listen. Okay? We don't go around, I don't want a male doctor. I want a female doctor, you know, to see me because I have, you know, this problem. No, you want a doctor. You want somebody who knows what they're doing, period. So that's my thought on today, is the cliquish attitude. The dividing against researchers now, of all things. The people that have helped us to come so far.